Welcome to an Internet Town Hall with State Senator Holly Mitchell. Tonight's topic, California's Employment Development Department, the EDD. Now, live from Sacramento, here's the moderator for tonight's Town Hall, Brian Green.
Hello everybody and welcome. California's economy is still in recovery mode, and our state's unemployment rate still looks like an EKG. The job market's improving, but thousands and thousands of Californians are still out of work, and thousands more of them have been out of work for a long, long time. And it is at times like these that out-of-work Californians want to be able to rely on a couple of things: a stable provision of unemployment benefits to ease the job search, and a stable, communicative state government process from which to depend on for those benefits in the chronically rough times. Unfortunately, the state agency tasked with being a port in the storm for California's jobless citizens, the California Employment Development Department, or EDD, has over the last year or so become a lightning rod for so much criticism and complaint regarding the inefficient way, as some have said, the way it has handled unemployment claims, with reports of 160,000 or more out-of-work Californians reportedly being denied benefit claims or delayed, phone calls overwhelming the system and going unanswered, a paperwork chaos, and controversies surrounding an IT system that apparently couldn't handle it all or handle the efforts to improve the process. The legislature and the executive branch have parachuted in recent months to try and perform triage on EDD. The governor's office has called for a sweeping overhaul of the department, and in the meantime, the EDD faces the results of a just concluded state auditor's report on its alleged failure to timely participate in a federal program that would have allowed California to collect $500 million in unemployment overpayments, and another audit, just requested by the state legislature, to look into the story behind the thousands of denied unemployment claims. Well, in the middle of all of this are the many employees of the Employment Development Department, hardworking folks who have felt the heat, to say the least, of all of the headlines, the pressure from the executive and legislative branch, and the mandate to change the system. Well, we wanted to give representatives of EDD a chance to walk us through some of the problems, some of the challenges that the department has faced in the last several months about the way it does business, what they do on a daily basis to help Californians, and share with us how this government entity that many Californians need to trust now more than ever is worthy of that trust. And we will talk to a state senator who shares the collective priority of improving this vital government service while acknowledging and advocating on behalf of her constituents who are begging for help and rescue in this tough economy. And with us, of course, is Senator Holly Mitchell, state senator representing the 26th Senate District in LA. She's chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. Nice to see you again. Welcome to our studio.
Same here. Thanks for having me back.
Glad to have you here. And representing the Employment Development Department is Sylvia Garibay, the Employment Development Administrator in the Unemployment Insurance Branch of the EDD. Sylvia, welcome.
Thank you.
And Betty Anna Baxter, she's manager over the Program Policy and Coordination Division of the EDD. Did I get all those titles right?
Yes,
yes,
you did.
Good.
Thank
Well,
you.
good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to. No, hey, you work hard. You might as well get your titles correct. Thank you both for being with us and taking the time to answer the questions, and from not only me but also our viewers. In fact, that gives me the perfect segue to remind you, as a viewer, we have emails that we're going to be taking that have come in over the last few days. But if you, while watching, feel prompted to throw in a question, have a comment that you want to ask, right below the screen is a prompt for you to enter your name, your location, type in the question, hit send. We will get to as many emails as we can in the body of this program in the next hour or so. So feel free to chime in. It's your EDD. We want to hear from you as well. Thank you all for coming in. I want to talk to both of you first from the EDD and the work that you do. I know that you have faced a lot of challenges over the last year that your department has dealt with. I went through some of the news articles and looked at some of the adjectives, and I'm just going to be honest here. There were quite a few of them. Frustration, skepticism, lacking, disarray, catastrophe, overstressed, failed in duty, appalling. It must be really hard to confront this and also deal with the optics and the public's perception. How are you guys doing? How are you reacting to this?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Senator Mitchell for this opportunity, and yourself as well. We are really making a lot of progress. We want to provide good service to our customers, and we are really hoping to, we want to be responsive to our customers, and we have some short-term solutions that we've worked on. We've resolved the technical issues with our systems. Claimants are getting paid, and we appreciate this opportunity.
Great. Well, thank you
Yes.
very much. And any
Yes.
comment from you?
Thank you for the invitation to be here. I would just like to say that management along with staff is just as frustrated as our claimants are. We want to do a good job. We want to provide good service. We're used to providing the service that they deserve. So it's very difficult for us also. We have lost 1,300 employees, staff, statewide. And our workload just continues to be as high as it has been. And so it's very difficult to do the job and do a very good job and provide the customer service that everyone deserves with the funding and the staff that we have.
When you say you've lost 1,300 employees, is that as a result of state budget cuts?
That is all attrition, transfers. Betty, anything else that you can?
Attrition, transfers, and our severe federal underfunding.
Yes,
Basically,
true.
we haven't had the funding be able to hire and refill behind people as they leave.
Got it.
So you've seen these
Exactly.
challenges, and then you're having the internal challenges of the staffing and the other issues that have
Right.
some kind of cascading to some degree, probably.
Right, right.
Correct.
Okay.
And even at a time like this, with the opportunity to hire, we welcome the opportunity to hire, and we know that it's going to help us. The system, we see improvements, and Betty will go into some of the improvements that we are now seeing, but it's been difficult, and bringing on new staff means we've got to train them too.
Right.
So this is not a change that's going to happen overnight. So we are excited to bring on new staff. We want to get the work done. So that's a very positive.
You know, I asked the question about the budget cuts because I think a lot of times when many of my colleagues in the legislature tout a need for smaller government, what I'm always reminded of the fact is that government's job is we don't make widgets. Government's job is to deliver a service, and it takes state employees to deliver a service. And so I wondered whether or not some of the staffing shortfalls are as a result of the state budget, us tightening our bootstraps over the last decade, and certainly the federal government really pulling the rug out from under us with both the government shutdown and their reduction in some of the federal dollars. Because we just have to remember that state government's role specifically is to provide a service, and we can't do it without appropriate man and woman power.
Well, let me get into that, Senator. That's a great question. You know, advocating for state government in theory and in a perfect world working efficiently and functioning efficiently, yet you are representative of a lot of constituents, probably likely a lot of them out of work, angry. You're having to advocate, but at the same time you're having to address their needs. Based on what's been said and based on the conversation, and you've read the headlines, what are you hearing on the ground with your constituents, and how do you want to see this change?
Well, I have to say that constituent complaints, both my time in the Assembly and now my time in the Senate, the number one issue we hear about, the number one state department we hear about is the Employment Development Department. And the complaints range. When you consider the geographic area that I represent, the 26th district, which represents many of the studios, all of Culver City, lots of inquiries and concerns from people in the entertainment industry on how the uniqueness of that industry in terms of kind of the ebbs and flows and residual payments, a lot of technical questions that have surprised me. But really, my office and my staff have been inundated since the day I took the oath in the Assembly, has followed me into the Senate. Questions and concerns, primarily about clarification about the status of their claim and really just trying to reach somebody on the phone. And so while I'm clear that EDD has been challenged by a budget stronghold, I'm also clear and committed as a public servant that the public has a right to have access to services that they are entitled to. And so we've got to find a happy medium to make sure that they are appropriately resourced to get their job done and that the public's needs are met.
And assuming Senator Mitchell represents the other 119 members of the legislature, I guess you can affirm and acknowledge what the concerns that her constituents through her are sharing, right?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yes. And so over the past few weeks, we are answering more calls. To give an example, in February 8th, we answered 23,000 calls at a rate of about 23%. As of last week, we were up to 60%. We're answering over 45,000 calls. We've also reduced the number of minutes or the length of time claimants are waiting for us to answer that call. It is now just under 3 minutes. We also have reduced the percentage of calls that are blocked and prevented from getting through. For example, in November and December, it was 90% were being blocked, which means they couldn't even get through on the phone.
That was the figure I had heard
Now
too,
we are
yeah.
very happy to report that we're at 18%. Only 18% of the calls coming in right now are blocked.
And there's no, believe it or not, I saw a letter to the editor on this. There's been no sacrifice of the handling of claims with the focus on answering the calls, correct? The
Correct.
claims are still getting the same priority.
Yes.
Correct.
right?
Yes. Yes.
I would also like to acknowledge and thank the administration for stepping up. They have given us the authority to hire. We have the authority to hire 280 staff, and those are direct staff. It's not managers, it's immediate staff. As of Friday, we have hired 67 new staff, and we continue to hire. We have also brought back, we can bring back up to 50 former staff who are already trained in the UI program, and we already have 12 of those folks on board and can continue to recruit to bring up our staffing levels so we can be more responsive.
So in fact, the governor and the legislature did kind of step in and they've tried to make these changes with overtime staff to get the computers going with staff for the calls. So you are seeing this make a difference?
We are seeing it make a
Okay.
difference. And correct, overtime, we continue with overtime, and thanks to the administration for allowing that. It was scheduled to end, and we wouldn't be able to make these improvements without it. I would also like to point out that the underfunding of the UI program is a national problem. California is not the only state in this situation, but it continues to degrade the level of service that we can provide. Having said that, we are also working, we're always looking to improve our internal efficiencies, you know, without IT programming, and constantly trying to improve processes to save the state money as well. Over the summer, we worked with Department of Finance and identified a number of opportunities to create savings to also help mitigate the underfunding issue.
Okay. We have our representatives from the Employment Development Department, along with State Senator Holly Mitchell, representing her district down in Southern California. And we have you. We have your emails. We're going to take a few right now. First, Tina from Los Angeles. Why is the extension now such a big deal, yet under Bush and other presidents it was automatically approved? I assume they mean the extension of unemployment benefits for those folks who are long-term unemployed. What is being done to help us? Tired of the politics, ready to vote everyone out. Well, okay.
I will be happy to take that.
All right, go ahead, yes.
We have over 214,000 individuals in California alone whose extensions ended. Governor Brown sent a letter on December 12th to Congress requesting that Congress enact legislation to make extensions available. My understanding is there are current bills pending in the Senate. The Senate is on spring break this week, but they plan on taking that up the following week. If they are successful in passing that, it would still need to be voted on the House. We encourage claimants to go to our website. We keep that up to date on a daily basis, and as soon as extensions do pass, we have done the pre-work, and we will try to get those payments to those individuals as quickly as we can.
Cindy, yeah, your perspective.
And I was going to say, I agree with Tina 110%. I and members of the legislature have communicated with our representatives in Congress, saying the same thing, get the politics out of it. These are life and death situations. The economy nationally, our economy in California, has been lagging for so many years that it's critical that we give people the resources they need to take care of themselves and their families. And so I completely agree. We know that politics is the rule of the world at the congressional level at this point, and it's tragic. Critical services like this for hard-working Californians get all tied up in kind of political turf battles. And she's right. I think it's very interesting that under previous administrations it was on autopilot, but I think when you've got a president from one party, a leader in the House of Representatives from the other, and that constant political friction, real people suffer, and it's tragic. I agree with her.
We're going to go to another email. This is Mike from Los Angeles. When can we expect the state legislature to return tax amnesty program? Small business, everyday citizens are affected by tax laws which don't allow just mitigation for tax liabilities. The current laws cause damage to individuals' reputation, causing inability to obtain employment and, in some cases, inability to obtain health care. Studies show that repetitive use of full tax amnesty increases state revenues, if I'm understanding that last sentence clearly. Either one of you want to take on that
Yes, I
issue?
can
Okay.
take that question as
Yes.
well. While I don't represent the tax program, I did do some research for this. At this time, we are not aware of any tax amnesty program being considered by the legislature. Our understanding, or my understanding, is the last time this was considered was back in 2006 when Assembly Bill 2344 was introduced. This bill allowed the state to waive penalty and interest on unpaid tax liabilities. In 1995, there was a tax amnesty program. The program did have some mixed results, and while it did generate some revenue for business who came forward to pay delinquent taxes, it was also expensive to operate.
And so I'm assuming both of those bills, I wasn't serving in the legislature at that time, I'm assuming they must have had sunsets and there was some evaluation done. And I have not heard of any legislation percolating up at this time dealing with the tax amnesty program. But I think it's interesting if we've tried it a couple times and the fact that it's not been reintroduced, maybe it didn't score the kind of savings and have the kind of results that we anticipated. It may have in this person's individual experience been beneficial, but when we look across the board, across the state, perhaps it didn't yield the results we anticipated.
All right. Thank you very much for that email. I want to touch on, during the course of this hour, some of the issues that you folks have been dealing with, the response that you're getting, the audits from the Bureau of State Auditors that you are being asked to respond to and deal with. In particular, let's start last year. This is the one that made the big headlines, was the computer system. Last year you had this 30, and probably in the past, this 30-year-old system. Your department had begun overhauling it. It was supposed to streamline the certification and the processing of job benefits. You launched it, you celebrated the launch, and then there was chaos. There was delaying of claims, there was the denial of the claims, the new system couldn't talk to the old system. What happened last fall? And the concern also was the fact that the department knew about it, underplayed it, dismissed it, and then there was the optics, the bad PR, if nothing else. Respond to that. I guess, Sylvia, this probably comes under your purview.
Actually,
but,
I will.
Oh, okay,
I will speak to that as well, and Sylvia can.
I shouldn't just
I
assume
will
somebody
chime
is.
in.
Yes. Great.
Chime in. Yes, there was issues when it launched. I wasn't part of the decision-making process for, why we let it go forward. If it was known there were issues, I am happy to report we have resolved the technical issues surrounding that. As with any large new automated system program replacement, there is issues. There was a staff learning curve associated with the new system, as well as conversion issues and that sort of thing. We have worked through all those. We have the technical issues have been resolved. The people that were due back payments have been paid, and if there are still individuals out there who feel like they haven't gotten results, please submit their unique information to the Senator's office, and we'll be happy to follow up.
Well, and I know this is not a new problem for EDD. I mean, even back to the start of the recession, if you will, when California's economy bottomed out 2008, 2009, and the unemployment requests were really coming in. You even had that problem back then, correct?
Yes, we did. Now we had. I just wanted to add that we have our new UI payment system, and we have a database, and they have to interact. And this is where we had some issues at the beginning, but we've come a long way, and there's been major, significant improvements, and we continue to work on improvements and enhancements. So we're very glad to report that.
Great.
Yes.
And with respect to those comments and the evidence of the improvements, I'm going to go to a question that we've all heard, and I know you, Senator, have heard this. California, the biggest state in the union, what are we, 8th, 9th largest economy in the world, whatever you want to call it. We are the home of Silicon Valley. Why can't state government, because EDD is not the only state entity that's had to deal with IT issues, and with no disrespect to those hard-working IT folks out there in state agencies, why can't state government, the largest employer in California, have smooth, streamlined IT systems?
I'll take a stab at that.
Okay.
Because it is a real irritation for myself as well. And I think the reality is, particularly coming off of this last 10 years of budget tightening, my colleagues in our effort to pass on-time balanced budgets up until the last couple of years, that required that we cut deeply, deeply into state government and services. It was the desire of legislators to not cut direct service, but to cut, personnel and cut state admin. I also think, technology is moving so quickly that it's gotten ahead of government, quite frankly. And we have systems in place, at the state level that departments have to contend with, which is the lowest bidder gets the bid. And so we sell ourselves short. You get what you pay for, as my grandfather would say. And our bidding process really ties the hands of state agencies in terms of what bid they can entertain. I think, unfortunately, companies know that. They undercut their bid so they get the bid. And frankly, I think when they accept the bid, it's probably under-resourced from the very beginning. And so while EDD can be excused for the managerial decision-making to roll out a flawed system, they certainly are not alone. The court system, child welfare services. We have example after example after example that I see as a budget subcommittee member of millions of dollars spent on systems that just don't work. And so I think we have to refashion and reevaluate our vendor contracting system and pay for the kind of service that we need. California is unique. We are large. When we look at our EDD system, to the child support system, to any kind of payment system, it will require a system typically that will be built uniquely to meet the needs of the State Department, and we've got to pay for it. I know that's a bitter pill to swallow when the economy is struggling, but you're right, we've got the best and the brightest in our backyard, but that's not typically who we grant the contracts to, because they don't come in with the lowest bid. So we have to refashion the way we approach technology, understand as government that technology is our friend. There are challenges and issues with, if we become more efficient and have these computerized systems, will that replace state workers? That's a tough issue that we have to confront with labor as well. But I think first and foremost, government across the board has to understand the value, the pace with which technology is forever advancing, and we have to get up to speed and develop our internal muscle and bench strength in terms of understanding technology and what it means to build and design a system the size that California would need.
Right. We're going to go back to some questions from some folks that have questions for you from EDD. Lisa from Los Angeles. I have been working 2 jobs to make my ends meet, but one of those jobs have laid me off due to a corporate merger. That's 35% of my income. Will I still receive unemployment until I can find another job to make up the gap? Response, folks?
Yes. What we would need an individual to do is to file a claim. If possible, online. That's probably the easiest and the most effective way to file a claim online. And we will then file the claim and send out the information. It depends on earnings. Now, did she say she was currently working? Is that what she's saying?
It sounds like she maybe just part-time.
Part-time.
Yeah.
Yes. And when an individual's working part-time, we have a special...
working 2 jobs, lost 1, to clarify.
Okay, yes. And we have Section 1279, that's of the California Unemployment Insurance Code, provides that when an individual earns wages in a week for which they claim, we will reduce wages. We will reduce the benefit amount by for earnings. We deduct their weekly benefit amount. We take their earnings, their gross earnings, and anything in excess of $25. Or in excess of 25% of the earnings, whichever is smaller, we deduct that amount from the weekly benefit amount. So it all depends on the amount that this person would be eligible per week.
So we always, if I can add to that,
Sure.
thank you, Sylvia. We always encourage individuals to apply and provide us
Yes.
the information and let us make that decision.
And at this time, when they do report work and wages, they're having an individual must certify on the claim form, the paper claim form. But we look forward to when we enhance our system and go UI online, where an individual may be able to report work and wages online. But at this time, it's not that a person's being penalized. We handle each claim. We're processing them. We have a process in place to promptly pay benefits and not delay benefits. It's getting better and better. So it's not like back in September. We've come a long way, and we've worked through all those challenges that we've had. So we encourage, file your claim. You will receive information in regards to the claim, and at that time we will, we can better help her.
Great. Thank you for this information and the answers to some of these questions. This is
Yeah.
what the public wants.
And,
Yes.
and as long as an individual is out of work through no fault of their own, they're able and available and actively looking for work, available for suitable employment, and suitable anything along their occupation, their educational experience, and that they report their work and wages, we should be able to assist them.
Okay, great. Go back to the emails. Jonesy from LA, why are we penalized for taking part-time work? If you work at all, it delays processing. What can be done to fix this? Why is the adjudication department so rude? All right, you can take whichever part of that question first. I mean, again, you're dealing with folks who are frustrated, who have
Yes.
their own situations, calling up,
Exactly.
getting the delays. I know you're trying to rectify it, but there's still a lot of angry Californians out there. How do you respond?
It's a very stressful period of time when someone's unemployed. And so it's already a very sensitive situation. So we understand that. It's not that we're penalizing. It's just that an individual working part-time at this moment can't use our telecert or WebCert certification method. So
Will that change in the future?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Hopefully later on, Betty Anna, and later on when we go on to UI online, this is something that hopefully that will happen. But at this point, they have to certify on a paper certification. And so, but it isn't that we're penalizing someone. It's just handled differently. Yes, we realize that when somebody uses our web certification or our telephone certification, it's a faster process. No mailing and claim form, so it's much faster. But unfortunately, right now, anybody working part-time must certify on a continued claim form.
The
paper.
old-fashioned
Yes,
way.
the paper claim form.
Right. All right.
And
Well,
then I would like,
yes.
if I may,
Yes, please, Betty
to
Ann.
apologize for the poor customer service that individual did receive. We do expect, our employees to treat everyone with courtesy and respect, and I do apologize for that.
Yes.
And can I ask, because it is a common issue that comes to our district offices, because as I, having been a former district office staff, I always try to equip my district office staff to receive the calls from constituents, because by the time someone calls the office of their elected official, they're at their wits' end. They don't know where else to go, and so they're coming really just asking for help. And so by the time they get to us, they're really frustrated. What can they do if they've experienced someone rude in a particular department? My sense is, if it were me, I'd be hesitant to complain, because I don't want any other issue complicating my paperwork from being processed and my unemployment insurance check from coming to me. But
She's a
what can they
complainer.
do?
Let's put that over there.
Well,
on the
you know,
end.
that's
Yeah.
a little human nature there.
Right.
But what can people do to feel that they've been heard, and what process can they? Who can they call to tell, I think I've been unfairly treated?
Yes, we want to hear from them. We don't want that poor service to continue. We want to address the issue. So they can either call our phone line. We also have, we take complaints, suggestions, and improvements on they can go to our EDD website and click on a UI complaint. And we do take those issues very seriously. We investigate them, and we talk to the individual because we do not want that poor service to continue.
And that's true. And as a manager of a field office, I get elevated complaints, and we take them very seriously. And it's a training opportunity. It's an opportunity to meet with the individual to find out, is there something that we need to do to help the individual? Could be that they're going through something personal, but we expect them to treat everyone, all our customers with respect and courtesy.
And there's no prejudice towards
No.
somebody's
No,
complaint, no matter how they handle it.
definitely not. No.
Okay,
no.
good. All right. We're going to another email here. Sienna from Los Angeles. Sienna says, I am an actress, and I have been told by an employee that the new computer system does not understand residual income and spits back the claim form. I was told I need to call, ask for a manager to manually input my claim. I've called over 60 times in one day. Well, there you go again. It has and is impossible to get through. Please help.
Okay.
Response.
We are aware of the technical issue, and we do. It's an issue that we have with our new payment system in processing residual pay income, and we're working on a solution. We have a process in place. And it's been in place now for several weeks, where we are quickly processing those forms, those claim forms. We ask that the individual help us and complete their claim form properly, because that helps us. We have to clearly know that the pay that they're receiving is residual pay. When they report that they have earnings in the week, we ask that down below where it says the last day work. Well, it's not a last day work, but they need to report the day that they receive the residual pay. Residual pay is wages for unemployment purposes, but it's deducted in the week in which they receive it. So we'd like them to tell us the day that they receive it, and it has to fall into the week that they're certifying for. A lot of times they give us a date that's not within the week that they're certifying for, and what happens is it's rejected. It doesn't, so we have to reissue the form. There's a delay. But if they give us the date that they receive the payment, they tell us who the company, the name and the address of the company that paid them, and then indicate in the reason no longer working that it was residual pay. We have a process in place now where we will promptly pay them. There's not a holdup like there used to be before. And we know, we are aware of this technical issue, and we're working on a permanent fix. Right now we have a temporary fix, but we are working on it.
We are, folks, if you have just tuned in or just joined us, we are talking about the Employment Development Department here in California. Some of the challenges that they have faced, you've read all the headlines, some of the work that they're doing to change their system, and some of the services that they provide to Californians. And of course, the constituents out there that have the concerns and needs. State Senator Holly Mitchell from Los Angeles is with us, as well as Sylvia Garibay and Betty Anna Baxter from the Employment Development Department. And again, we're taking your emails, going to try to get to as many as we can. Right below the screen, if you're watching, anything that we say is the catalyst to prompt you to ask a question or say something. Right below the screen, enter your name, your location, type in your question, hit send, and we'll get it up here if we can. So we're glad to have you joining and participating. Robert from Los Angeles asks, what, if anything, can be done to address those unemployed people who have been unemployed in our state over 99 weeks? This is such a major issue that really speaks to how this recession has affected folks who, you know, we talk about employment numbers improving, but there's always that caveat. Well, there's that folks that just drop off the system because sometimes they give up. Sometimes they just can't find work. How do you respond to that question?
Well, two things. You know, as we talked about earlier, there is work at the congressional level where they're trying to authorize new extensions. In the meantime, individuals should also file for a new claim to see if they qualify, because it could be that they qualify for a new claim and they don't realize it. When people have their claims are ending, we also send them a notification with other resources, other departments that can help them through this difficult time.
Okay.
And I have to say, I've seen that letter, and I can only imagine how a claimant must feel when you realize that you fit your 99 weeks and you get this letter saying, well, you can try to check out Section 8 or you know, some of the other kind of safety net programs. And I think the issue really is we've got to recognize that EDD's job is to administer the program. I mean, I think that's a core political issue that we've we're at a crossroads at the federal level in terms of why Congress hasn't extended it. I'm sure the two of you, if the three of us could vote, we would have extended it yesterday. But we're not in that position. And so it really is a challenge. And I hope that this emailer and others will recognize that we've got to let Congress know that they've got to take the stranglehold off of unemployment insurance benefits and extend it, because there are too many Californians and citizens across this country who really are entitled and have not been able to seek gainful employment again.
Well, to that point, Felicia from Torrance says, my state UIB unemployment benefits exhausted January 5th. No federal extension. When will there be another vote? Will there be retroactive payments? Does the state do the filing for the federal for the unemployment claimants? Either one of you folks want to respond to that?
Yes, sure. I'll take a stab at it. The extensions, my understanding is the Senate plans on taking that up when they return from spring break next week.
I think we already changed it on the screen,
sorry.
but anyway, just
we are
retroactivity. That was the other part of it. Trying to remember.
In the current bill that the Senate is proposing, it will be retroactive to December 28th, I believe, and go through be effective through June 1st. So it's about 5 months of benefits. And should that pass, we are ready to get those payments to the individuals as quickly as possible.
So if the bill is in the U.S. Senate, all of us should take away from this experience our homework to go home and send emails and write letters to our 2 U.S. senators, giving these very practical, real-life examples about how Californians' lives have been compromised by the lack of an extension. So if we can support our U.S. senators in casting the right vote, that's, I think, what we can do proactively to try to make that happen.
Now, I know that part of the question, I think, at the end said, how will we be notified or how can we file? Well, we suggest and we encourage, EDD encourages our public, our customers, to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, check our website, because not only will it be on the news media, but follow us. We will send a message, and that way they know they can, again, reapply. Apply online, and we'll take it from there.
How many followers do you have on Twitter account? Just curious.
I have no idea.
I know.
Okay.
Good question,
lots
but I
and
have
lots.
no
After
idea.
this webcast, it'll be
maybe
a bunch
more,
of them.
Just
We
curious,
encourage,
so-
that's the best way.
Okay.
You know, help us help you is what we're trying to convey here. Use the technology that we have put in place for you, because that way we can help those that don't have the technology, right? Those people that really need us will be more available to answer their calls, because people who are tech savvy will use the internet and will go about it that way, allowing us more time to help those that don't have that knowledge.
I divine the amount as 17,000 plus followers. No, I just got the note from the
very
So
good.
you got quite a few there,
Yes,
folks that are out there
yes.
following it. One of the issues that you've dealt with here at the EDD this last year or so, and has become a real problem, and now has been asked to be subject of a state audit here, is the denial of claims, and that so many of them that have been denied. There have been a lot that have been delayed, but apparently there are a lot of them that have been denied, and then they are reinstated by an administrative judge. What's the disconnect here? Why are so many claims being denied and then reinstated? Why are you generating claims that are being denied and then overturned?
Well, I and Betty chime right in, but
Sure.
let me, from the field level, from the office, and we deal with appeals all the time. When an appeal is received, we review the information. We do a pre-appeal review. We review the information and check for quality. Let me just mention that during the past 2 years, we have passed Department of Labor quality standards on our work, on our determination, eligibility interviews. So we do take that very seriously. We review the decision, make sure we have everything that we need. We decide, should this go to an appeal or should it be reconsidered, reversed at our level? A lot of times what happens is someone goes to the hearing and new evidence, new information, an employer shows up at the hearing, things come into play that we did not have at the time that we did the interview over the telephone. Many times we can't even, we can't reach our customers, although we've notified them in advance that they will be receiving a telephone interview, they're not available. We have to make a decision within 48 hours based on the information that we have before us. So it goes forward. And maybe it's not enough, but we've got to make a decision. We have timeliness, Department of Labor requirements also. So at the hearing, lots can happen. A lot. We don't represent on hearings. Number one, a lot of it has to do with staffing. We don't have representatives available to represent us at a hearing and support the decisions that we make in the offices. So when you don't have that to your advantage, that's why decisions are reversed.
So it sounds like you're ready to respond to the auditor when the staff comes to ask questions about this.
Right, and if I may, I would like to add to what Sylvia shared. I can share that in calendar year 2013, the department conducted over 1.5 million eligibility determinations, and of those, we processed over 199,000 appeals. This again is also where, as far as the overturn rate, where the claimants can help us help them. It's critical that they respond timely to our requests and they provide us all the information we have, because what we're hearing from the judges is their claimants are showing up with the information we requested when we didn't have it the first time, or they're showing up with new information. So under Department of Labor's guidelines, that all gets counted as a reversal when it could be a modification or new information.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Betty Anna Baxter and Sylvia Garibay are here representing the Employment Development Department, and Senator Holly Mitchell is here representing the California State Senate. We're taking your emails talking about EDD. MD from Los Angeles asks or says, who has been held accountable for the poor performance in processing, I guess that's unemployment compensation claims, and for dropping about $500 million in reimbursement from the feds? Per the LA Times recent article, managers would probably be gone in the private sector, but mistakes like these seem to be tolerated too often in government. Now, this goes back to, if I'm following the train of thought here in the stream of details, this is the latest audit report that I referred to earlier that came out dealing with how the feds have come to you and say, hey, you know what, you can take care of this, you can get some extra funds from us, and EDD has chosen to ignore it. Now, am I following? And we're talking about the same things here.
Referring to the Treasury Office.
Yes, yeah. But I guess to that, let's deal directly with the email question before we go into some of the other details. What was your response to what they had said?
Well, it's unclear to me what they're
Can we go back to that email real quick just to, sorry guys. We just want to make sure we get the clarification. Held accountable for the poor performance in processing unemployment compensation claims and for dropping about $500 million in reimbursement from the feds versus the LA Times article. Mistakes like this being tolerated in government. What do you have to say?
Well, I believe this is in response to the offset program. The department has always been committed to taking advantage of that program. At the time, we have been participating in the program to recover employer liabilities since, I believe, 2004. At the time, the Congress or Department of Labor wanted states to begin participation for the recovery of benefit overpayments. We had a number of competing IT projects, over $572 million, I believe, and decisions were made at a higher level that we didn't have sufficient resources or money to complete all those projects. We had 3 critical projects going on at the time. One was the upgrade of our mainframe database. One was the, on the tax side, complete replacement of their collection, overall tax system. And the third was we received some money from the federal government to implement alternate base period, which also enabled UI claimants to qualify for UI under another method, and that was very beneficial.
Well, one of the concerns that was brought up in the auditor's report, particularly in regards to the overpayment issue, was that it expressed in the auditor's report the concerns about dealing with the changes in your computer system, upgrading, needing to be able to talk to the feds. But the concern was that that particular cost to your department would only be $300,000 and change. That was, I don't have the right figure here in front of me, but that the savings, $500 million in getting back that extra funds garnished from federal income tax refunds, whatever it might be for those overpayments, paled, that the cost would be more than offset. And in fact, the auditor's report, they called that, I'm trying to think of the word, just that it was a tragedy, that it was just a shame that this was happening. What do you to say to that when you guys had that opportunity with a relatively minimal expense to not save the agency and the state more money?
Again, I think it's the underfunding, the lack of staff. You know, the same staff working on that to implement that were needed for all these other major critical projects. We can still take advantage of, and we plan on implementing the Treasury Offset program this year, and all our current liabilities, if they meet the criteria, can be sent through. So we can still have an opportunity to recover that money, and it's another tool. We have many other tools that we use to collect. As people are collecting UI benefits, we will offset their benefits if they have an existing overpayment. We currently collect intercept state refunds to recover. This is another tool, and we are very committed to implementing that this year.
Why was the delay made? Originally, you had told the auditor you were going to implement this partnership with the federal government on the overpayments in May. You've deferred it now to September, and there was the concern that you're losing out here at tax time on a lot of refund money that, as part of overpayment, could come to the state and to EDD. How do you respond to that?
Certainly, there have been some changes at the federal level as far as the security requirements and proper notice before we can just intercept someone's federal refund. There's some paperwork that we have to complete that was recently revised by the feds, and that has contributed to the delay.
All right, we're going to go back to an email here. This is Rishon from Los Angeles. Where do you go to apply for an employment with EDD? Also, what are the qualifications to be considered for gainful employment with an entity that obviously needs help? Well, you talked about your hiring, you're bringing on more staff.
Exactly.
Sounds like you have an applicant here.
Yes, yes. We encourage, go to our website, www.edd.ca.gov, and you could click on vacancies on EDD positions available. You need to take an exam. We have all kinds of positions available, entry-level positions from office assistants up to, employment program representatives. That's what we've recently been hiring in the field. But analyst positions, you have to take exams. The civil service, you take the exam online, and then that's how we hire. We from the certification eligibility list.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's state personnel board,
Yes.
civil service process. So the current positions we have are the classification is an employment program representative. I believe the Cal HR website has information on how to apply for civil service exams. So they need to take that exam and be on this certification list, and that's what we are using to hire from.
And it says qualifications. Entry-level employment program representative right now, we're looking at either a 4-year degree or 60 units with 2 years of public service work. So you could have an AA degree, in other words, or 60 units at a community college, and as long as you have 2 years of public service work, customer service, you qualify. You met the minimum requirements. So like Betty Anna said, we encourage them to apply.
And are the jobs that you're hiring, you talked about the 200 and some odd jobs, are they in the Sacramento region or are they statewide in your regional EDD offices?
They are statewide, and we do have an insufficient pool in the Orange County and San Francisco area, so we strongly encourage folks who are on that list and work and are interested and they live in those areas. We need more applications for those areas. I believe there was another part to this person's question, which was how to apply for unemployment benefits. The most efficient means of applying is using our e-apply for UI application that is on our website. They can also file by telephone. And then there are a small number of individuals, if they have out-of-state wages or former federal employees or ex-service members, there's a paper form they need to use.
How are other states dealing with this? California is the largest state, but not exclusive to some of these challenges. In regards to the overpayments issue that the auditors report, it sounded like New York and some of the other states were jumping on to take advantage of these things. Have you talked to your counterparts in other states about how they're dealing with this, and what was the excitement regarding the overpayments issue and working with the federal government, the benefits that New York and other states received and California hadn't received them yet. Give me some perspective on both of those issues.
Certainly. California is one of the last states to implement the Treasury Offset Program. We have, the team did reach out to New York and one other state to gain best practices. Some of the things they shared with us are making sure we have our security protocols in place because they did get audited after the fact and they have some things that they need to correct. We also asked them about, number of calls to expect and that sort of thing. So we did reach out to those states for best practices so that when we implement, we want it to be as smooth as possible.
Okay. Do you feel like that California jumped or didn't jump soon enough in trying to get what they could from the federal government?
Well, again, I can't speak to, a prior administration made that decision, and I can't really speak to that as to why. I am very excited that we are implementing that this year.
When you talk about comparing other states, which I think is valuable, within the legislature we participate in the National Conference of State Legislators and always try to tap into our colleagues across the country to look at best practices. I'm wondering where other state departments are in terms of their technology. Are we ahead of the curve or behind the curve in terms of the recent transition to this new system?
That's a great question. We do have a National Association of State Workforce Agencies where we share best practices and communicate with each other. Also, thanks to the Department of Labor, they've been out a couple times. They've put us in contact with some IT resources in other states, and we've been having some communications with them to learn what they have done and what tools they have used, and we're investigating to see if we can leverage some of that. We are not the only state with this problem and that face system issues. There were a couple of other states that also had the same vendor and faced similar issues, and share our pain.
Because I think that's important to know, because if it's a vendor issue, having those kinds of relationships could certainly help inform decisions California makes on a go-forward basis, because why go to a vendor that failed another state?
Right.
So it's good to know that those relationships exist.
Right.
And I assume all of the challenges of the last year or so sort of made you guys improve communication internally, right?
Oh, definitely.
The sit-downs, the let's talk about challenges, let's talk about opportunities. Tell us how that's improved.
Well, we have, we are looking at our processes. We have, regular meetings. We have, the UI program has, thanks to some funding, supplemental funding from the Department of Labor, we have a business process, re-engineering effort that will begin shortly. It will be a one-year effort. Where the contract was awarded to Unleashing Leaders, and they are going to help us, teach us how to do a better job of looking at our process on a regular basis and making improvements, as well as looking at the whole UI program and helping us to determine where steps we can take to improve, like our payment promptness, our determination timeliness, and our appeals.
Right. Just as some final thoughts here, you've survived the last few years, moving on to 2014, 2015 as a department, as staff. In the perfect world, what do you hope to see in this next year? Where do you hope to see with the department as you evolve and change and adjust? Just kind of a blue sky kind of question here as we wrap up. What are your hopes here for the agency as you move forward and the work you do?
I'm hoping that we can be very responsive to our UI customers, that we receive the funding that we need to run our program, and that we provide efficient and quality services to the public. That's our #1 priority. And we have a very good team that is dedicated to getting that done.
Any comment on that?
I just would like to say that we work closely with our central office. They provide us the training that we need. We need continuous training. We're receiving the best practices. We talk to each other, we communicate. Every week we get a little bit of training so that we stay on top of the new enhancements. Otherwise, you could get training way back months ago, but as things progress, our staff need to be kept apprised of all the changes. So that's going on. So we're working closely with our central office, and I'm very satisfied in the field. The morale of the staff is getting much better. They could see the improvements happening. We're very excited about UI Online, when our customers are going to be able to manage their UI Online and do so many things. So we look forward to that. And I just want to say, help us to help you and go online and do as much as you can on the internet, so that, like I said, follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I can't say that enough. I think that we're living in the world, the internet world, and I think that for those people who have computers and access to computers, help us help you and use those technology improvements.
Senator, you've heard some good faith here, some expectations from the colleagues at EDD. As a senator still representing those constituents, some final thoughts.
Well, I have to say, it's nothing like shining a little light on a problem to help create efficiencies and bring resources to the table and have folks rally around to improve systems. And so clearly the Employment Development Department has been in the hot seat for quite some time. And we've heard, I think we've both heard today, some structural improvements they've put in place. You know, as a state senator, as an elected official, my obligation is to represent my constituents and to hold the state and state departments accountable to the programs that they are charged with administering. So I will continue to reach out to EDD, as I've done consistently over the past several years, to bring my constituents' issues to the table. But I'll also be mindful of what I've learned from you all today as I'm making a decision as a member of the Budget Committee, and as we're thinking about how we allocate resources to critical state services for all of Californians. Clearly making sure that we've got the computer systems, the training, and the man and woman power available to deliver these services is critical. And I think I have a responsibility as a Budget Committee member to bring that perspective to the table as well.
Great. We are ready to wrap up here, folks. I just want to say thank you both to you, Sylvia, and to Betty-Anna, for taking the time, for your transparency, for your helping us with these questions, answering these questions, and sharing some of the information. It's good to get this information out here. It's good for the public to know that you folks are on top of things, and I really appreciate your availability and your clarity on a lot of these issues. So thank you both for coming. And Senator Mitchell, once again, nice to have you with us here, and thank you for bringing this issue to the table and giving us a chance to dialogue.
Thanks for the opportunity on behalf of the constituents.
Betty-Anna Baxter and Sylvia Garibay from the Employment Development Department, and the Honorable State Senator Holly Mitchell from Los Angeles. And I'm Brian Green, and that wraps up this town hall live from the state capitol in in Sacramento. I don't know where that came from. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a good night.